Welcome to If the Walls Could Talk in Buffalo podcast with Don Purdy, former member of the Buffalo Bills front office, 27 years, and Josh Cormier, a member of the coaching staff under the Wade Phillips regime. And we are here, as always, to talk with you about the Buffalo Bills of 1990 and, of course, 2022. All right, folks, we are joined for the first time by a current member of the Bills organization, Alumni Director Jeremy Kelley. He's had a very interesting career, a playing career himself, and he is officially the contact with all the Bills' former players, bringing them in, going to events, hosting events, and he's a very busy man. We're lucky to catch a few minutes with him this morning. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Calling in from, and what does your day today look like with the team, going to be on the move?
So actually, I don't travel with the club, which is it's a gift and a curse, if you will, right? Sometimes you want to be involved and be a part of it, but it doesn't hurt just to be at home watching from the couch some Sundays and enjoy your weekend. So I'm calling from just actually my car right now. As you guys know, I had some construction going on in the house, so I apologize for that. But here we are. So
all good.
Whatever it takes.
All good. That's right. So
that's how it is these days. Yep.
Can you going back to we're interested in hearing about your journey and how you ended up in this position. Can you take us back to your football days in high school, college, and I read your resume online. You've been a lot of places.
Man, true journeyman. Wherever they let me have a cup of coffee, put my bags down, man, I was there. I was going to run some routes. I stayed as long as they let me. I look back and you mentioned career. I don't know if I call it much of a career. I certainly would refer to it as a pro football experience that catapulted my now career, and really opened the door for my now career. And I'm so thankful for that. And some of the places I got to play, some of the huddles I got to step in with some of the game's greatest, I take that at extremely high value and do not take it for granted. So, being born and raised right here in Buffalo, West Seneca, New York, West Seneca West High School is where I played my high school ball, and had just a phenomenal group of teammates that, we came up in Little League together, so we had success when it came time to the varsity level. And then obviously that led to opportunities and scholarships and to go play at the next level in college, which led me to the University of Maine. So I'm a Maine Black Bear through and through. We call it the land of the misfits up north. There's a lot of cats that we got a handful of guys that get to the league. I think at one point when I was coming out of high school in about 2006, we had the most players active in the NFL out of any AA program, I believe. I don't know that that's still to be true, but shout out Pat Ricard, 4-time Pro Bowler out of the University of Maine, fullback for the Ravens. So shout out to him. Show Black Bears a little love here. But and Brian Gain, our assistant GM right here in Buffalo, another former Black Bear. So we're scattered throughout the league. So I give them a shout out. But super thankful for my time, super thankful for my journey, and what it's been able to still provide me and still give to me to this day. I mean, the game of football has been everything in my life, and I'm certainly thankful for what it's allowed me to do both on and off the field, and certainly realize my value where it's at in the role that I hold now and the capacity that I work with now with the Buffalo Bills Legends community and the NFL Legends community throughout the league. So I'm very, very thankful.
Yeah. So before we get to your work now, I have to go through the organizations that you were a part of as a professional.
Okay.
I'm reading here that you played for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, the Utah Blaze, the Jacksonville Sharks, the Indianapolis Colts, the Pittsburgh Power, the San Jose SaberCats, the Denver Broncos, the Chicago Bears, something called the Hudson Valley Fort, and the Saskatchewan Riders. Can you talk me? Give me. One funny story.
I think we missed the Florida Black Tips in there somewhere,
Okay.
which I never actually stepped foot in Florida to play for. So you want a funny story? I mean, I can give you one from every one of those places that I played, man. Why don't we do this? So like I said, a journeyman. If there was a field, if there was a league, I touched it, I played with it, And I always say if there's a field here in Buffalo, New York, I probably ran and trained on it. Like whatever it took for me to get there, whatever it took me to stay, I was going to do it. And so as I mentioned, the Florida Black Tips, being in and out of all these leagues, right? Going to CFL, coaching changes, coming down, calling up an arena team and say, hey, you still interested in having me? Going there, getting tape, getting into the league, getting a taste of it, and then you getting cut, being the last guy out of the building, and whatever it took, man, you just found a way to make it happen. And that led to a league called the FXFL. The FXFL was this football experimental, league that was created, and one of the teams of which was called the Florida Black Tips. I was very thankful. There was a gentleman that called me up, said, "JK, I think I can get you in this league, man. I think it's gonna be good and gain some steam." Like I said, the team ended up being a remote team, so we met in the city that we played in. We never actually had a housed location in the state of Florida. Long and short of it, get in this league and end up playing for a coach by the name of John Jenkins. So if you guys are football historians now, we're going to take you back down a trip. John Jenkins coached Jim Kelley back in the USFL. John Jenkins was a coach at the University of Houston back when Andre Ware and their offense was putting up numbers and breaking records left and right. So he was one of the originators of the K-gun and what was being done with the gamblers back in the day. And this cat, I want you to envision Ric Flair hair, tinted sunglasses, and Houston, Texas football coach all in one. Everybody had a hoss with the southern drawl. Hey, big hoss, how you doing? Hey, little hoss. This cat was football through and through. Eat, sleep, breathe, read it, and I loved him. And he became a fan of me real quick. And so in this league, we ended up playing. I think we played in Harvard Stadium. We played against a team in Boston. That was a pretty cool experience, obviously, with the history around that stadium and whatnot. But I would tell you, before a game in that league, we are meeting in a hotel conference room, and the coaches start reading off a checklist and saying, "Hey, Johnson and Smith, you're gonna be together. Carwell and you're gonna be together." There weren't enough helmets to go around. Guys were sharing helmets at halftime. If you came off the field and you needed to go back on the field, offense, cats were wiping out helmets with a Clorox wipe and going into the game.
Wow. High budget stuff, huh?
Never experienced anything like it in my life. But I will say this, I valued it because one of those games I put up a pretty great performance, and it ended up getting me signed to the Denver Broncos. It's a tape that went out, and I was playing tight end, I was playing receiver. They were moving me all over the field, and it got me back in the league. So it served its purpose, man. But so needless to say, I've seen some stuff along the journey.
There's a great image of you on Google with the cardboard piece of paper saying you'll run for food. That's a clever way to mark yourself, and clearly it worked. So once you go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I did that. I think I did that before it became a fad. I remember seeing, and then it became guys standing outside of buildings and all, types of things. That was just me showing a little bit of my personality, man, and who I am. If you know me, I'm constantly joking and having a good time. But again, there's a little piece of that, like that was the level of desire I was going through, man. Like whatever I needed to do to get somebody's attention, because all it takes is one. All it takes is one phone call.
Jeremy, I think your experience has to help you empathize with guys coming in the building. When you look at guys in the practice squad, they get signed from the practice squad, off the practice squad, they get there. You know what it's like to be plopped in a new city. So I know you work mostly with former Bills, but you are, as a current administrative person, staffer on the Bills, you work with the current players too, and you have to be able to kind of just give them some good words and let them know that you're there for them. I could just see that.
Well, so I don't have much interaction with the current guy, hands on, I guess I could say. Obviously, you cross paths and the common areas, whether it be the calf, the hallways, what have you.
Right.
And I do have a couple relationships with a couple of old heads on the team that I've known who have been good friends for years prior to them arriving in Buffalo. But I would say it's, they're looking at me like, wait, who's this cat? Kind of looks like us, look like a player, like what's, and they'll stop and they'll ask questions, hey, what exactly is your role and this and that, and it's good to be able to share that experience with them. It's good to be able to tell them, hey, look, we got you from cradle to grave here. When you come to Buffalo, you're gonna be part of this family for a long time after you're done playing, and we'll make sure that happens. As far as words of encouragement and whatnot, it's good to get out the training camp, and I like to watch guys, as I'm hosting alumni. You can tell the guys that maybe, they're not getting as many reps. You can tell by body language they might be having a rough day, or it's been a rough week, or, feeling a little bit down. And I remember those experiences, right? You go through these mental mind games, if you will, when you really got to stay the course. You can give a guy a little word, and or hey, have an alumni and go, hey, bump over there and go give that cat a little praise right now. I could tell you can use it. That type of thing. That just from having a little bit of awareness and being in this game, this arena, hopefully it helps.
Absolutely. One recent example that I became aware of so Brad Lamb is a good friend of mine who played on the 90s teams, and you invited him and his wife Angela back for the Green Bay game, I think, just as an alumni. And we were going to get together for dinner afterwards. And before we met, they said that you had arranged a meeting with them and with Dawson Knox. So you were having a current player meet with a former player, and he said the meeting, they'd never met each other, but it just went so well. And so whatever premise you had for that really resonated with him, and I'm sure it does with a lot of other guys too, both current and former.
Honestly, that was just us coming in the lobby. And Dawson just happened to be there, and whenever we're crossing paths, I think it's important to let these guys see, hey, our guys are here to watch. Our guys are here to support you cats. So made a quick introduction. Dawson was there with his family, and he was walking by. I said, hey, this is Brad Lamb, one of our former players, one of the fastest in the NFL at his time. And it was nothing more, nothing less, but it shows how far that goes, one, with our former players too. But, I just was listening to a podcast earlier today, Travis Kelce and his brother, and Travis was speaking on his relationship with Shannon Sharp. And he said, just the text from Shannon, the text from Tony Gonzalez, the text from the guys who have done it, that give the encouragement, that support my career, it goes such a long way, because now I hold myself to a different standard, the standard of the greats and those guys. So I think it's important to bridge that gap. I think it's important for these guys to know that, hey, it's not just fans in the building, but you got players that have done it, that got your back.
Yeah. Did you seek this job? Like, how did you come to get the job, in Buffalo as the alumni director? How does it differ? The player engagement director. We talked to Billy Brooks, who is the player engagement director for the Colts, and he explained his job is with the current players. How does your job as like the alumni director? How is it kind of similar, and how is it different from like the player engagement director with the current guys?
Yeah, he was a player engagement director. Then he's an ambassador. He does radio for him now. I think he turned the reins over to David Thornton, but he was player engagement director for quite a while. He gave us a really good overview of that position. Yes.
Yeah, Billy's great, by the way. Tell him I said hello. It's been a bit since we've caught up, but funny that you mentioned David Thornton, because this comes full circle for me. During my time in Indianapolis, which is really where I felt most, and I would probably have my allegiance to, being that they gave me the first opportunity in the NFL. But DT was my guy. Like, that was a man, that set an example, where I said, hey, I think that's what I want to do when I'm done. He was, every bit an ounce of integrity and just a consummate professional, and a supporter and an advocate for some, free agent wide receiver that came in off the street. Big fan of David Thornton and what the Indianapolis Colts do, the first class club. But I got into, I really, is just God's timing. Honestly, I was done playing ball. I had moved out west. I was living in the Bay Area, California. I had some medical stuff going on that forced me to walk away from the game. I was working in tech in downtown San Francisco in the financial district, completely away from football. I didn't even watch the NFL. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I'd only watch college football at that time when I got done. It was just, a little barrier that I had going on. And until I got that urge, I got the itch to come back and to give it one last go. And I come back to Buffalo and I start training to get in shape, and my body was responding and I was feeling great about it. And working with a couple agents to try to get some calls, and whether it was CFL, NFL, and sure enough, I started to take advantage of some of the resources and benefits that former players had access to. Well, in doing so, Marlon Kerner, who Don, who was the director of Alumni at that time, I had known Marlon since high school. He used to come out and work with us on the field as a defensive back, and as I was a young receiver learning the game, he would coach me up, this and that. And Marlon called me while I was in an executive job shadow program at the NFL. It was a 3-day experience. And he said, "Hey, I want you to come and interview for this role." And I was like, what role? I didn't apply for anything. He said, "I know, I'm gonna send you the job description. I think you're the guy, and I want you to explore it." Read the job description. A couple weeks later, interviewed. A couple weeks after that, got a phone call, and there was a job offer on the table for me. And I was like, that fast. Now, the irony of this, that same week, the receiver coach at the time, Phil McGagan, who was, again, a UMaine Black Bear, longtime receiver coach in the NFL, had called me and said, "Hey, I need you to figure out your CFL contract. I'm trying to bring you in for a workout, but you're under the retired list." I'm like, they just offered me a job in the front office, right? So he said, without hesitation, "Congratulations, you're going to take that job. You're going to work in this league a lot longer than you play." And I had peace. In that moment, I didn't need to lace up the set of cleats again, man. I was good. And I knew that I could have impact on that side. And so I'm thankful for that guidance. I'm thankful for that timing. And it's been everything I thought it would be, honestly.
That's great.
That's a great story. It's great to be able to come full circle for you, and you can get that piece, because we've talked to a bunch of guys that struggle, and frankly, both Don and I worked there for a number of years, and Don was there forever. And leaving and not being a part of it anymore is difficult in any capacity or any role in the NFL. So I just meeting you now, I'm really glad that you could be able to kind of do it on your own terms, and leave the on the field stuff on your own terms, and get some peace and some clarity in the job that obviously you're good at, and that is important. Speaking of that, when we talked to Drew Hull earlier this year, and I know you saw the clip on Twitter that I shared, he talked about what you do and how important it is to the forms, and what an effect he thought might be able to have on his dad after retiring. Can you maybe walk us through what you're able to do for a lot of the former guys, especially the guys who might struggle with letting go of the accolades, the camaraderie? One day you're a superstar in the NFL, and the next day you're, what was he? Ken Hull was like ranching cattle,
Mississippi. He said that unprompted too, Jeremy. Like we kind of just say anything else you'd like to share, and he said, "I just want to commend the job that Jeremy Kelley's doing," and went so far as to say that he wishes that the program existed when his father retired, and
that he might still be alive.
Yeah, it's
so yeah. Can you just talk us through what you do and what value you think it gives to all the former players?
Yeah, that comment hit home. Think about that. That's a son, saying he still might have his dad had these resources been in place, and I was humbled. Again, I take this role on with an altruistic approach. And really try to serve guys that played this game that, as I said, I grew up 12 minutes from the stadium. These are the guys that inspired me to play the game, watching Bruce and Dermot and Andre and all these other guys, Eric Mold and Lee Evans, and, so to be able to be in a position now to help or have that level of impact is incredible. And that's my goal, is to leave this game better than I found it, however I can. If that's your player career, then that's the way we'll do it. The NFL has done a tremendous job in making strides to make sure that our players are taken care of. and have an avenue. And I'll credit the NFLPA as well, and the Players Trust, and all these other third parties that are now accessible to former players once they're done playing. You know, as you've written down my resume, everybody, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're Bruce Smith or Jeremy Kelley, very rarely do you ride off into the sunset like Kyle Williams. You can get a trash bag with your cleats in and say thank you for your service, but we're on to the next. And that's just the nature of the game. That's the nature of the business. Some guys have the luxury of, staying engaged and being wanted and having that celebrity to them. But majority don't. And they're not going to get that call. And while there are all these benefits, while there are all these perks and resources, from continuing education to financial literacy workshops to broadcasting workshops to rental car discounts, I mean, anything and everything you can think of that you would want, programs that are reimbursed to go and get your tuition covered, whether it's your master's or your bachelor's degree, anything that you would want is just about accessible to you through any form of programming, whether it's through the NFL or the PA that's been collectively bargained. And so I serve as a conduit for those resources. If guys call and they say, JK, I'm struggling with this, or hey, JK, I'm looking for a resource in this arena, my job is to direct them and to make sure that they have access to it. If they're not hearing back from somebody, okay, I'm going to double up on that email, make sure that we get it to you in a timely manner. And one of those benefits, I could run down the list, but one of the ones that is more recent and has been extremely beneficial and helpful, really it's a critical one, is a dedicated hospital network. And that the dedicated hospital network is essentially a professional concierge of 32 NFL cities around the country that former players can call, and there's somebody at that system that is aware and understands and has the knowledge of the benefits former players have, and they get them. Instead of waiting 3 months for a meeting, we're going to get you a doctor's appointment next week with Dr. So-and-so in 2 weeks. So it's an expedited process for these guys that their benefits that they've earned, and obviously when you subject your body to this type of game, you might have issues. You might have issues. If you make it out without those issues, you're very fortunate. So, it's a slew of things, but we try to make them feel as if they always have somebody to call, because when that time does come where there's a crucial conversation that needs to happen, or a life or death circumstance, I'd rather have somebody be able to pick up the phone and know JK's going to pick up, rather than, to see their name across the ESPN ticker. And it really needs to be taken with that level of attention.
Yeah. Wow. That's well said. Listen, a couple more things. You're a busy man, but I saw online you were part of a group of former NFL players that went to Isreal. Did I not see that?
Yeah.
Didn't you go?
Yes. Yeah.
Man, what was that? And Josh, or you could tell your story about your dad.
My dad was I would say obsessed with the Israeli Air Force. He watched some documentary one day. I did not expect you to say this, about how the Israeli Air Force bought F-16s for the American fighter pilots, and my dad was utterly convinced that the Israeli Air Force was like the Avengers, basically. So what were you? What
that wasn't part of the tour. So, but what was the? What does it mean to you?
Well,
moving
I tell you what, we saw quite a bit, and we actually did spend some time with like special ops Israeli, from the army, and they have another name for it, and I'm blanking on it right now. But I mean, look, Israeli, the state of Israel, first of all, is only the size of New Jersey. They are the second leader in the world in the realm of technology. Like the Iron Dome they're surrounded by countries that essentially want to blow them up and take that land, right? I mean, their defense systems are nearly impenetrable, and it's incredible, the technology that they have out there and some of the things. That whole program was Isreal Collective. And I was contacted actually by a counterpart of mine at the NFL League offices. Like, hey, I know you're a man of faith. This opportunity has come up. I'm wondering if you're interested. This is 10 days before the trip. So I'm like,
wow.
Okay, right? I mean, I'm not, there's no way I could turn this trip down. It's a trip of a lifetime. Expenses paid. Meet us in New York. Buy your flight to New York. We have everything else taken care of.
Wow.
I'm there.
We're at
and so Isreal Collective is essentially a ministry that brings people of influence, athletes, high-profile businessmen that to the state of Israel to show them what it is through their own eyes and through their own lenses, and allow them to form their own perspectives as opposed to what we see on the news and in the media. And we met with former U.S. Israeli ambassadors who, as I'm sitting and celebrating Shabbat with a family, and this gentleman, Ron Dermer, he's like, "Oh, I'm good friends with Thurman and Patty Thomas." I'm like, "What?" So it was just you think about how closely tied the world is over in Israel. I'm meeting people. I met a Jewish rabbi who knew my father from when he went over there 5-6 years ago. I'm like, this is just incredible. So we went over there for nothing more than to take it in, to see it through our own lenses. It was a cohort of current and former NFL players, and it was just incredible. You already have the NFL brotherhood and that type of tie, but then you have faith tied into that and that level of fellowship, and you're seeing, the tomb, and you're taking trips up to Mount Sinai. I mean, it was an incredible trip that I'll never forget.
Wow. So it is the Christmas season. What one of everything you saw, what was the most impactful? Like, wow, I can't believe I'm standing where X happened.
Yeah.
Probably hard to choose just one thing, but
there's two things that come to mind right now. And I think one of which is we were standing in the Garden of Gethsemane, and I was praying, and another guy that was out there with me came alongside and started praying with me, and that just was like a level, and he started to open up and share things about his life and his family. And actually, he's a guy who just walked away from the game, and he was kind of on that trip to get some discernment and some clarity on this decision as to whether or not. And so he started to confide in me a little bit, and some of the things that he was experiencing and whatnot. So, it's a perfect example of, the relationship equity that's developed when you play the game, and you have somebody that can trust and open up about their career and their family decisions in any given moment and say, "Hey, look, I need some help with this." That wasn't the case in the past, and so I was allowed to kind of serve as a vessel in that moment, just based off of my occupation, and to have that connection. And it's all the way over in Israel that this conversation is being had. And, and sure enough, that guy ended up walking away from the game, and seems to be transitioning well. He's now in media and broadcast, and he's thriving. And, so that to me stuck out, and I'll never forget it.
Sure.
Wow. That's great. There was no route running in Israel, right?
No, we didn't. It's definitely trash talk, though. Definitely trash talk. You got young and old, and we're on a bus. I mean, we went everywhere from the border of Gaza all the way up to the Golan Heights.
Okay, that's so great.
We saw it all. We saw it all. Yeah, awesome. I would say if I could point out, there's actually another thing that sticks out. So the two of you may remember, and he gonna be mad at me for saying, Larry Triplett. It was a former Buffalo Bill defensive lineman. Yeah. So Tripp was he was out there with us, right? So I had never met Larry before this trip until we arrived at the airport. Well, while we were out there, we're on the border of Gaza, and so it's the length of a football field away from a sniper tower with a guy that's up there ready to go. And we can see it. So as we're going on this tour, you can see the sniper. Now you're just in a regular, village of Orchard Park, and all of a sudden you see a sniper tower. Just think that's how close you are to it. And as the guide is kind of sharing us and pointing this guy out, he's like, "Oh, trust me, he knows this is Americans. He would never do that because of what type of hell it could unleash on their country." Larry Triplett steps behind me. I said, "Trip."
Yeah, that would shake you up.
Said, man, Trip, I see how it is, man. So
that's not in the take a bullet's not in the alumni director job description, right?
I said, Trip, what? I said, man, okay, I see how this one is. That's what type of teammate
when
you are.
When the chips are flying. I remember Larry Triplett when he came in. I handled the payroll, players' payroll, and for direct deposit we needed a voided check, and he gave Colts check, and I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I'm just trying to use them up. I know I'll get paid. He was a good, soft-spoken guy. So look, we know you're busy. Are we going to go to the 2-minute warning?
Yeah. I got like one more question before we get to our final segment. Give me. our podcast is focused on 1990 and the differences and the similarities between that season and this current season. Give me your favorite 1990 player to deal with, and maybe a funny story about one of the guys on that team that people would want to hear.
1990 specifically, huh?
Early 90s.
Early 90s. Yeah, the Super Bowl run.
Okay, yeah. I mean, man,
maybe somebody off the maybe somebody off the board.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we spent a lot of time with those guys, so it's hard to just pull one moment. But somebody off the board from the '90s team. The first guy that comes to mind that's not one of the 5 presidents, if you will, that Jim Turnbull, et cetera, Dre. One of the first guys that comes to mind is John Fina.
Okay.
Yep. John Fina is one of one. But one of my I would say also Kenny Davis.
Yeah. Oh no.
Jeremy, you still there?
Scene went blank.
Yeah, we lost.
This is gonna be good too. Hold on.
We'll give him a minute.
Yeah, we can edit this out. That was a question.
Yeah. You got me?
Oh. Yeah. Just start back with Kenny. We can edit that out. Just start back with Kenny Davis.
That was a phone call that came through. Sorry. So yeah, if I think about it, Kenny Davis is one of the just kindest individuals you'll ever meet. Soft spoken, and I look back at his tape. I think they call him Cotton. He could play. He's sitting behind a Hall of Famer, right? And if you know his story, the fact that he played and was as long as he did is a credit to him and his abilities. But one of my favorite moments. Him and Thurman have a very close relationship. And the night that we retired Thurman Thomas's jersey, Thurman didn't know that we were going to be, at the time, it was called Lead the Charge. And we honored Kenny, and as opposed to Thurman. I asked Thurman, and he's like, oh, yeah, please do that. He wanted to give him a little bit of shine and get some recognition for his career because he thinks that he lengthened it. Kenny lengthened Thurman's career and being able to step in and not miss a beat and allow him to take these spells and do different things. And so that was special to see. And he was just so humble and just an amazing guy. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Back and watching a lot of the old games like I have, on YouTube, Kenny Davis was a dog. He was good. The comeback game, he was the star, obviously with Ola Frank and Andre, but
51-3 championship game. I think he had a couple.
Kenny Davis's burst was unbelievable. It was, and it's great that Thurman, is humble enough to acknowledge that, his partner there, Kenny, obviously did extend his career because, you had him come into the game and you didn't miss a beat.
That's great.
So Jeremy, before we let go, we play something called the 2-minute warning, where we ask you 10 fun questions and try to get within 2 minutes. And then, all right, go ahead, Don. You're first.
Okay, we're going to the big board, which we can see, but you can't. So,
okay.
Yeah, we'll go with this one. He's part of the team. Let's go to number 2. 3 people, dead or alive, that you'd like to dine with.
Dead or alive. Okay. I would say number 1 would be, dine with. I would say throw Morgan Freeman up there. I feel like it'd just be a very interesting conversation. I would say
Red or God.
I would say. Let's see here, man. I would say Jerry Rice, just because he was like an all-time favorite for me as an athlete. I need to touch that box too. And then I would say, that's a tough question right there. Barack. I feel like that'd be
all right. All right. Next. Yeah. All right. Next one. You're walking into a room. There's dry ice. You're the celebrity. What song are you coming into?
Dry ice, a celebrity. Okay. Let's see. Man, you guys, these are some good questions. Jay-Z, PSA. Public service announcement. You have to go look it up.
I know it.
All right. Sounds good. Speaking on the music theme, your best concert you ever saw?
Best concert, The Roots in The Roots out in Mountain View, California, at the Mountain View Winery. Hands down, best concert.
Buffalo restaurant, and what do you get there?
Favorite Buffalo restaurant?
Yeah, what do you eat?
Oh, without question, Hutch's, no doubt. I sit at the last seat
and
down
the
the
dish?
end of the bar, and I would get, when it's on the menu, there's two things that are, so they're not on the menu, but when they have them in the house, they'll get it for you. The French onion soup, that's hands down the best in Buffalo. A lot of people might be upset about that. That's a hot take, but I'm going to go ahead and own it. And they have a steak sandwich that is out of this world, that is also not on the menu. If you walk in, they're going to look at you kind of sideways like, you know what you're asking for? And I promise you, if you're ever in the city, go to Hutch's, ask for the steak sandwich. You can thank me later, or just bring me. Either way,
Noted. I'm literally going to note it. Yeah. Favorite cartoon growing up? Was that my turn?
Yep.
Your favorite cartoon growing up?
Favorite cartoon?
Yeah.
Probably Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I would say that's up there. Yeah, no doubt.
Beautiful. A popular food that you hate?
Popular food that I hate. I mean, there's not much I don't like, but I would say, golly, man, there's got to be something here. I don't like eggs Benedict.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good one. All right.
Most annoying.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Most annoying fan of another NFL team in the media. How we rephrase that one?
Give when you played
Cowboys.
Give me. There you go. You answered it perfectly.
Right.
So
what? Fan, man.
There you go. One off the board. Is there a former player or coach that you'd be starstruck to meet? Is it Jerry Rice?
No. If there was a coach, let's see, former player, coach, I would say the former player, there was a time, like Dan Marino was my guy growing up, man. I grew up, I'll confess this on there. I'll say I grew up a closet Dolphins fan, big Dolphins fan. Dan Marino was like, Dan's the purest passion the game has ever seen, in my opinion. Sorry, Jim, love you, brother, but Dan was my guy. All right. So there was, and that's a time for another story I'll share. First time I crossed paths with Dan, and since then I've gotten to know Dan real well. He's a great guy. But coach, I would say, I'm gonna flip out Jerry too for people I'd like to dine with. I have never met Tony Dungy, and I would love to meet Tony Dungy. And I'd probably be, if I met Tony, I'd probably try to steal all his time. Really, I would. Yeah.
Wow, he's got would have a lot to share. Yeah. Wow, what a life. Okay, can you sing us 5 seconds the main fight song?
Oh yeah, the Stein song. It's a Stein song. Oh, Phil, the Stein's old man. Shout to the rafters ring. Stand, drink a toast once again. Let every little man sing. Drink to all the happy hours. Drink to the. Dang, you got me forgetting my song now.
Oh, we only said 5 seconds. You
5 songs. No, you did better.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, it's been a few years, man. I've been out of college almost a decade now, man. I gotta hear the music to get it right.
That's funny.
Oh, you did more than most, Jeremy. You've been excellent, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for your time, Jeremy.
Yeah, we'll talk to you, and Merry Christmas and down the road.
All right, it's been a pleasure, guys. Great. Thanks for thinking of me. I appreciate it.
All right, take care, buddy.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right.
Now listen up. All you ever get for an opportunity. You gotta get it. Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
I want to bid you now farewell, but not goodbye.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Today is a bittersweet day for me. Memories, many of which Mr. Wilson has alluded to, flood my mind right now. I'm surrounded by my thoughts and indeed by the presence of friends unparalleled. Visions from a lifetime of thrills keep flashing before me, and yet the future beckons, and I look forward to it with excitement and anticipation. Because I'll tell you something, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. So I advanced it on that. And we finally came to an agreement and decided to move forward. And so now my time with the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, has come to its natural conclusion. How do I begin to thank all those who have been instrumental in enriching my life here. Well, I can't do it adequately, and I know it. I can't adequately. But I'll remember you all fondly and forever.
North Fox, so it's an early day. Be sure you get your taping and breakfast in. The meeting tomorrow for all players will be an 8 a.m. meeting. Enjoy your day today, fellas.
It's great because it was a special group of people at a special time in the city. The team that we had really unified the region. And there are still people who think fondly of those things and remember some significant things that happened during that time that were pretty cool.
You see, our fans are great. You know, they come out, they get excited, they come out and they cheer before the game. They're there, ready to go. And when you see that, when you walk out of that tunnel, you know, right now, here comes the electricity.